Hello everyone, and welcome to my second anniversary! You've all made it through one more year of listening to my crap, so that means it's time for one more installment of Which is Worse? You've all given me a handful of movies to compare to TENTACOLINO, one of the worst movies in existence, so let's get started. Which is worse, TENTACOLINO or porn? Yeah, someone actually asked me to compare this movie to an entire genre instead of an individual film. Okay, I like a challenge. Now, porn is very probably the last thing to which most people try to give any kind of intellectual value. You get a camera, a couple of hopefully decent-looking actors, tell them to get naked, and the rest writes itself. Not a whole lot to it, right? But as simplistic as the characters and whatever semblance of plot there may be, it's usually pretty easy to understand. Why is this hot teacher jumping one of her students? Because her husband doesn't give her enough attention at home, and she wants to reward her student here for doing such a good job with his studies. A bit of a stretch perhaps, but not entirely unbelievable. Now let's look back at TENTACOLINO. Why are the main characters looking for the wreck of the Titanic? Why are Atlanteans saving them when it would probably be better for their hidden society to just let them drown? Why are the rats trying to take over the world? Why is Vandertilt looking for some unspecified hidden treasure in the Titanic when he should be more focused on his whaling empire? Why does the king of Atlantis wage war on the rats when they pose no threat to his kingdom? Why does the king maroon his friends on a secret island instead of taking them back to New York? I have no idea, this movie's just making up crap as it goes. So, which is worse? TENTACOLINO. Which is worse? TENTACOLINO or Felix the Cat the Movie? Felix the Cat the Movie is one of the most bizarre cases of what the hell that you're likely to come across. It follows the basic story of the brave hero rescuing a princess from an evil despot, and it's littered with some of the strangest imagery ever put to film. However, one could say that all of this freaky imagery is, for lack of a better term, acceptable, since it's established that most of the movie is taking place in an alternate dimension. And who knows what the hell is going on in the space between spaces. It's like me suddenly turning into a dog for no reason. It doesn't really make sense in our world, but does it make sense in some alternate reality? Who can say? Oh, and let's not forget that TENTACOLINO is based off of true events. Dear God, it hurts to say that. While the Felix the Cat cartoons on which the movie was based were just as mind-bendingly insane. So at least Felix is being true to its source material. So, which is worse? TENTACOLINO. Which is worse? TENTACOLINO or Highlander the Source? I'm gonna be brutally honest with you here. I haven't seen Highlander. I'm sure it's good, but it just doesn't quite look like the kind of thing I would particularly enjoy. Suffice it to say, I haven't seen Highlander the Source either, but as someone who isn't a fan, at least I can take solace in the fact that if I had seen it, it wouldn't leave me feeling, let down, disappointed. What's the word I'm looking for?
Betrayal! What? Betrayal!
Ah, yes, that's it. As for TENTACOLINO, you don't need to have seen anything that came before it, and you'll still feel dirty after having watched it. Hell, you might not even know that the sinking of the Titanic was a real event, and this movie would still piss you off. That's how bad this movie is. So, which is worse? TENTACOLINO. Which is worse? TENTACOLINO or The Room? Oh, The Room. You're so unbelievably terrible, but I just can't stay mad at you. Most of the characters are creepy and or pointless to the plot. The plot itself was ripped right out of some forgotten Skinamax flick. But most of the acting is pretty decent, considering the awful material that they have to work with, and no one but the demented, twisted Tommy Wiseau could take an otherwise mediocre movie and turn it into a cult classic. This movie is the ultimate guilty pleasure. It's terrible, but it's the kind of terrible that you're laughing at all the way. TENTACOLINO? You can't watch for 2 minutes without wanting to gouge someone else's eyes out. So ish movie is to be being the worst one? TENTACOLINO ding! Ha 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 ha. What a funny review, Bob Show, huh? Which is worse, Tentacolino or Birdemic Shock and Terror? Okay, I spoke too soon. This is the ultimate guilty pleasure. Say what you will about The Room, but at least it had a budget. At least it had actual actors in it. At least it had special effects that were kind of believable. At least it just wanted to tell a story. But Birdemic? It's basically Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds, but with a budget of about $20, and it also boasts actors who couldn't act wet in a rainstorm, special effects that would make Ed Wood laugh his ass off, and worst of all, it actually has a message to convey. Of course, the movie's about rampaging birds terrorizing mankind, but what's making the birds terrorize mankind?
There is scientific evidence to show that because of our burning of fossil fuels and creating greenhouse gases, which is causing global warming, it's raising the temperature of the seas, and species like the krill are dying. So many bird species can't find food, like the nutrient krills, so they eventually starve and die. It's also evidence that global warming is interrupting the birth, mating, and migration cycles of many species. In fact, in the last few years, 40 species become extinct because of global warming.
Haven't you noticed those eagles seem to be going after people in their cars and gas stations?
Oh yeah! The horrors of global warming are somehow turning birds into suicide bombers. On top of being a terrible movie, it's also trying to get you to buy hybrid cars. This movie is, quite literally, the most ridiculous thing you will ever see in your entire life. Period. Tentacolino? I don't know, maybe you could enjoy it if you were hooked up to an IV full of ecstasy, but I don't feel like testing that theory. So, which is worse? Tentacolino, of course. And thus ends one more installment of Which is Worse. Thank you guys for joining me, and do remember to comment on which movies you would like me to compare to Tentacolino next year. And in all honesty, totally serious here, thank you guys for sticking with me all this time, and for being the awesome audience that you are. Really, you guys are just great. What more could a zealous internet reviewer like me ask for? This one's for you guys.
You know there's something you should know, so I'm gonna tell you so. Don't sweat it, forget it, enjoy the show. Working all day, now it's time to unwind. Kick back, relax, take a load off your mind. I'll be busting the moves and I'll be busting the rhymes. We'll be busting up laughing cause it's party time. Well, just leave your troubles at the door, leave your worries behind. Leave the rest up to me, you're gonna like what you find. I'll be busting the moves and I'll be busting the rhymes. We'll be busting up laughing cause it's party time. Party time, it's party time. Everybody's feeling fine cause it's party time. Party time, party time. Everybody's feeling fine cause it's party time. Party time, party time. Everybody's feeling fine cause it's party time. Party time, party time. Everybody's feeling fine cause it's party time. Party time, party time. Everybody's feeling fine cause it's party time. Party time, party time. Everybody's feeling fine cause it's party time. Party time. It's party time.
Subscribe.